Welcome. I hope you're all enjoying Municon 2021. My name is Karen DeNicola. I am the moderator for this talk. I'm in Ecology's Water Quality Program headquarters. This talk is called The Organic Evolution of a Multi-Departmental Municipal O&M Program. And it'll be presented by Trey George, who is an environmental analyst for the City of Spokane, and Taylor Hoffman-Ballard, a stormwater engineer at Osborn Consulting. During the presentation, please type your questions in the chat, and the questions will be answered live following the presentation. Thank you, Trey and Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and I believe I can pull this off. So today's presentation, as Karen mentioned, let's get this up, is the organic evolution of a multi-departmental municipal O&M program. And I'm going to present a couple videos and a little PowerPoint sandwich in between the videos. And then part of that PowerPoint sandwich, Taylor Hoffman-Ballard is going to present some work she's doing for the City of Spokane. It kind of ties it all together. And so this is a lot of words for a short presentation that just wants to kind of showcase where our municipal O&M program is at and how we got there. Because I think we're a little atypical in the municipal O&M program world. And we kind of grew organically, in response to needs. That's how our program got developed. As mentioned, we're going to have a video, a few slides, very brief slides, and then another video. These videos were created as part of our public outreach campaign, but they do showcase our maintenance program pretty well in that it makes our public aware of what we do and why we're doing it. So to say that, we're going to start with a video right off the bat, and I'll see you guys when it's wrapped up.
We are responsible for all the wastewater, so that's the combined sewer system, the sanitary sewer system, the stormwater system as well.
The folks that work in the department here, they make sure that a packet of water, when it leaves the sky and hits the ground, is managed appropriately, and then it gets to the river as clean as possible. That's what this department does.
We try to keep as much of the pollutants out as we can.
Typical pollutants in an urban environment are things like metals that come off of tires that are worn, brakes that are worn on fuels, oils that are leaked from vehicles, pet waste, lawn chemicals like fertilizers or pesticides. Well, that stormwater comes by and it picks those things up and takes it with it.
Anything that doesn't fall out of the sky is considered a pollutant. And a lot of people don't realize that, our aquifer in some places is, only 28 feet deep. And, that goes to the river. Well, the river interchanges with the aquifer at least 7 times. We're out doing what we're doing, so it can help keep the river clean.
I do think it's a very big and a very important thing that we do day in and day out. And most people don't think about that, how well we protected the system.
Our stormwater system consists of 3 different elements. A combined system where they take the stormwater and mix it with the sewage, and so you see catch basins in the street. The separated storm system is one in which we have pipes that go to the river directly, and those have catch basins and grates and pipes. Then you have a on-site, which is dry wells and grassy swales.
A swale is a low-lying area. It's essentially a ditch that works for us. You can find them all over town. It allows stormwater to drain into it, and then the vegetation and the soil in the swale provides treatment for the stormwater to remove the phosphates, the metals, the oils and gases. What is awesome about stormwater chemistry, Mother Nature provided us the tools we need to treat stormwater. Vegetation and grasses and bushes and such, as well as the soil, the microbes in the soil and the soil itself, provides us the treatment that we need to remove the pollutants from stormwater.
We have just under 20,000 catch basins and dry wells within the system, within the city limits that we're maintaining on a daily basis.
The catch basins basically take the storm water and put it in pipes that go either to the wastewater department, or a lot of them, they just go into the ground.
Normal day, we go out, we check to see what catch basins need to be cleaned. We've got check the depth of the debris. One of us will operate the boom and suck the debris out. The other will use a jetter gun and spray out the sides, clean out the inlet pipe and the area around the catch basin, make sure it looks better than when we got there. And then when there's storms, we go help out where the infrastructure isn't quite keeping up.
That's when we get puddles that, we have to go take care of, especially in the spring when the ground's frozen. Truck will hold about 2,200 gallons of water, and it'll fill up in about 4 minutes.
Mother Nature rains too much, our pipes can't handle it. And we always get the question, why don't you just make them bigger? And then Mother Nature proves who's in charge, and they're still too small.
We have over 850 miles of pipe. On the sanitary side, we have 350 miles worth of storm pipe systems.
Pipes that are over 100 years old, some of them show signs of duress, and so we plan on what we're going to do to fix those.
Come on.
My name is Mike Simmons, and I work for the city's wastewater division. I've worked for this department for almost 40 years. 30 years of that, I've operated a television van, video inspection system for inspecting pipes. In 1957, Seattle had a catastrophic failure of a sewer in an expensive neighborhood, and it cost over $2 million in the 50s to repair in 2 years. So the City of Spokane began to look at ways of inspecting our pipes and knowing what we had in advance. The operation consists of introducing a camera into the sewer manhole and driving it through the pipe, watching it on television and observing the condition of it, logging observations, faults, roots, cracks, anything that might be in there, and making a full report of it in a video. These are some snapshots of some of the different pipe conditions that we've encountered over the years. This would be considered crushed pipe, almost a failure actually. We don't want them to get to this point. So the money that is spent on it is saved, dozens of times over.
Day to day, it's a variety of stuff. We go out and look at new construction, looking at the dry wells, infiltration gallery, piping. We also deal with illicit discharges. People pour oil and stuff into the basins, where we go and check that kind of stuff out and see if we can find out who did it.
It all lands in the river and then ultimately in the oceans. We need to do better globally about source control, minimizing the pollutants that are available for the stormwater to pick up.
We want you to realize is you can do your part. If I spill, accidentally, I drop a quart of oil or something really bad, then I'm good at picking it up, cleaning it up.
You can take your paint and all that hazardous waste to the recycle place. It's free, it doesn't cost anything, just a few minutes of your time. Drop it off and dispose of it in the correct manner. Keep our river clean.
We should embrace that a little bit and help clean that water so that we can protect that river.
We are blessed with and cursed with an aquifer. Blessed with it because it's the purest, greatest water in probably the nation, I think, but cursed with it in that we have to be great stewards of it. There's a thought that is, you can't do much by doing one thing, but if a lot of people do one thing, they can accomplish great things. And so everything that we do in stormwater is to try to be good stewards of not only the water that falls out of the sky, but the water that gets into what we drink.
Okay, so that was our video. That's who we are, that's what we do. And where we began is entirely as a combined sewer system, like many cities out west. Everything went to pipes, went to the river. And then pre-1990s and the early 80s, they started separating the storm lines from the sewer lines, but we still have over 300 miles of, we have separated over 300 miles of storm lines, but we still have over 400 miles of combined sewer and sewer lines. So it's still a part of our how we operate here in the city of Spokane. And it's just because there are a lot of areas of town that aren't conducive to managing stormwater through infiltration, and it's just not practical. And so our maintenance has kind of been divvied up and in response to the needs required by permit, but just by being environmental stewards. We don't have a single stormwater utility department. We do have a stormwater utility bill, but our stormwater responsibilities are spread out across multiple departments in the city. Specifically maintenance, it's our wastewater management department that maintains the infrastructure such as the pipes and the catch basins, and they've grown to absorb the swales, but they do the infrastructure, but they don't do the landscaping. That's our water department. So a swale might be visited by two departments or more, and sometimes private consultants or private entities. A single swale can be visited by many entities to have its maintenance performed. And so our integrated capital, they don't do maintenance. They do lots and lots of things. They manage capital for one, but they do initiate these private-public agreements, which is, a lot of the nation's headed that way, and we've got a couple agreements in place now, and we're always looking for more as we move forward because it's lucrative. So in short, our maintenance is divvied up across multiple departments with multiple responsibilities focused on what their expertise is, rather than having a single utility be responsible for all the maintenance of our stormwater assets. And just to show you a quick timeline, or a long timeline in short view, back in the day, we maintained storm and sanitary sewers in kind, pipes for pipes. We began separating them before the 90s and the 80s. We continue to do that when practical. About 2002, the city started requiring development to install swales. I believe that to be more of a flood control prerogative rather than stormwater treatment. But in 2008, here you see, we started requiring development to install engineered BMPs, which are still swales, but now they're engineered BMP swales. And if you see about 2008, our stormwater permit was issued prior to that, which drove that, I'm sure. And then we also have a Spokane Regional Stormwater Manual, which has an equivalency to the Eastern Washington, or the Eastern Washington Stormwater Manual, Stormwater Management Manual of Eastern Washington, excuse me, that Ecology publishes. About 2011, the city, maybe a little prior, started to construct ecology-funded treatment projects. And this is where some pretty grand treatment infrastructure in the city started to be built. Some of my favorite things to go look at. And we'll see some in the video, and we just saw a couple in that video. Larger BMPs, not just roadside swales, but still functioning as the same as a swale, just on a grander scale, accepting more of a basin size footprint for treatment. And so that changes the maintenance a little bit according to what the treatment is that you're doing. It's not simply having a long crew go out there and mow it. Sometimes it is that. It depends on what the treatment is, especially as these emergent technologies come out. Silva cells is still a sensitive word in my department. I'll just tell you right now. We've learned to embrace it, but Silva cells aren't pipes, and we were pipe people. So we've grown as maintenance needs have grown. About 2015, we realized that we needed to establish a green area maintenance crew, and that's our water department. They were already established as a maintenance crew doing lawn care for water department around the tanks. So they absorbed the work around stormwater as well. And then in about 2018, maybe a little earlier, but continuing on, we started to see public-private partnerships established with the city and private entities, such as our Sharp Avenue Permeable Pavement Study, which is an effectiveness study, and then Kendall Yards, which we'll see in the last video, is a public-private partnership that works pretty well. And so this is a little cumulative evolution of approach. And so these are kind of the triggers and the responses. And it's cumulative, meaning that each one of these steps does not replace the previous. It's additive. So the mindset was a sewer is a sewer is a sewer. The response was maintain sanitary sewer and storm sewers in kind. And then evolution over time, pipes and vegetation, they do have different needs. So we responded with establish a green area maintenance crew. And then treatment facilities are not created equally. Silva cells are not catch basins, and they are not permeable pavement. So tailor your maintenance to new technologies, and which is sometimes a cultural shift, more so than just adopting the technology. The bigger hurdles is changing culture and doing the training and getting acceptance. And then we realized some of our projects more recently, we need to resource it with an attention to aesthetics, not just have it function, which is ultimately the most important thing. But if it's going to be in public or on private property that's shared, aesthetics does become important. And so public-private partnerships, because the private sector, they have a pretty strong, they're geared towards aesthetics, more so than public stormwater treatment, but they can be married and they can be the same thing. And with that said, I'm going to kick it to Taylor and let her take it. I'm going to control the slides at her direction.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Trey. I'm going to talk about the West Plains Stormwater Study just briefly here. This ties in operation and maintenance, and we'll get to that in a second. The West Plains is a 15 square mile area located west of the city of Spokane. You can see it outlined in red in the image to the right. The West Plains Stormwater Study, the goal of that project was to develop an actionable stormwater management plan. And a key part of being actionable is having a plan for operation and maintenance. So what we did was we came up with an estimate of operation and maintenance labor and costs for the infrastructure that we were proposing in this 15 square mile area. And that estimate included labor and costs for the pipes and structures, the swales, the lift stations, and regional facilities that were proposed in this area. And that estimate was come up with a lot of help from City of Spokane and other stakeholders in terms of what they know about maintaining pipes and structures and swales. We also took past reports that were done for the city and used that information as well to inform our estimate. And then we also used literature on the subject. And that estimate was put into terms of full-time employees, so they could kind of plan for the infrastructure that's going to potentially be proposed in this area, as well as dollar amounts. Next slide. And this might seem like a lot of work for a planning level study, but there are some great benefits to planning ahead. Like I mentioned, we got City of Spokane and other stakeholders input on operation maintenance of some of the infrastructure in the area. And this allows us to come up with more accurate estimates of what we would expect to see in terms of labor and costs in the future in this area. So you can make that more accurate early on and maybe identify funding sources. That also allows us to consider maintenance in our design. As we move from planning level to design, we can understand what design best fits the labor, the equipment, and the knowledge base that City of Spokane has, so we can make that trade-off successful. We also get stakeholder investment early on by involving City of Spokane and other stakeholders. By getting their input early on, we can kind of identify any issues up front and limit any identification later on in the study closer to design. And lastly, by planning ahead, we can come up with some creative solutions and identify potential shared space. So for example, our regional facilities, which would receive water from like a basin scale, could serve as a treatment facility. They could also provide maintenance for access, and they would also provide much needed green space for the West Plains area. So with that, we're wrapping up the planning phase of the West Plains Stormwater Study. We're excited to continue working with the study as we move into design and hopefully get to see some of these really cool facilities and infrastructure get built and maintained. And then I'll hand it off to Trey.
I would just like to emphasize a couple points Taylor made, is that having maintenance up front in the discussions during the planning design phase is critical for the maintenance crew. If you ask us, it's critical for us because we'd like to know what we're getting into so we can prepare, rather than having a project handed off after the construction and having to learn a skill. We can help drive the discussion for planning and then have the skill in hand when it comes time to do the maintenance. And these become really important when you do have these creative solutions with potential shared spaces, because you have more than pipes, and you have more than lawns. And you have different expertise that's needed, different skill sets that are needed to fully maintain the entire integrated, piece of property. So it's been really good with working with Osborn to get to this point. And so after this, we're going to watch another video, and then I think we'll have a couple minutes for questions, and I'll let the moderator drive that. So we have one more video for you. It's a short one like the previous, and this is focusing on green area maintenance, and we get to see Taylor do an appearance for us. She's heavy in the video. Hang on one second, please.
So stormwater is Mother Nature at its best. As the rain comes, it picks up all those pollutants and carries them into some kind of stormwater area. If we maintain these things, they will last longer. They're the ones really doing the work for us. So as long as we take care of them, they'll take care of us.
It's keeping that runoff from entering our storm system and ending up in the Spokane River or in the aquifer. That's really why we want to have these treatment areas and why we want to keep them functioning, to protect those.
We have all of our different sites around the city that we manage. Major concern is like flooding, getting rid of excess stormwater or drain water. We also get rid of a lot of the trash that's put into these that's usually flowed from the water.
We're looking for trash, garbage, leaves, weeds. Make sure the water can flow on the edges and the outlets. Don't flood the corners.
So we're gonna make it look better and work the way it's supposed to at the same time.
I think it's really important that everybody comes in together to make sure that we're keeping the aquifer as clean as possible and keeping the Spokane River as clean as possible. I mean, it's a recreational asset. It's an important piece of the city of Spokane.
From the time of design, we are thinking about operation and maintenance and how this stormwater treatment area is going to be designed, but we also want to lay out an operation and maintenance plan for this stormwater treatment area that can be passed on.
As the city grows, you have more stormwater treatment facilities. As the regulations grow, you have more requirements on your stormwater treatment facilities, and so you need to project moving forward what your staffing and equipment needs are going to be.
I think the most important thing that we've learned is really just talking about these projects. We want to make sure that we're not setting our maintenance crews up for failure by making something that's too small or too difficult for them to maintain. When we plan and design a stormwater facility, we want to make sure that we're meeting the water quality goals, the water quantity goals, and we want to design something that's cost effective too. The public-private partnerships are incredibly helpful to us because they a lot of times allow us to achieve our water quality and quantity goals without spending more money than we would otherwise. I mean, I'd use the example of the Olmsted Brothers Green facility that we did at Kendall Yards. This is a facility that essentially begins over on the Monroe Street Bridge just to our east here. We've got a pump facility that pumps all the way down this street here, and we've got 3 of these structures right here where the pumped stormwater bubbles up out of them, flows down this set of weirs, and runs out into the grass field over here. And that grass field is what gives us our infiltration and treatment for this facility. We don't have a lot of maintenance dollars, so anytime we can partner with a private entity to help us with that maintenance, it's a huge win for both the city and the private developer.
They are a big investment in terms of design, in terms of installation, in terms of maintenance. So we want those to last as long as possible. Another challenge we're finding is just quantifying operation and maintenance over a long-term period, so that we kind of have a representative of what it might take to like clean out a catch basin, mow a swale, and those numbers even vary depending on where the BMP is located. So if it's on a main thoroughfare and you want it to look extra nice, that's going to take more work than say just a swale in someone's parking lot. There's going to be some pretty common maintenance actions that you could do regardless of what the stormwater treatment area type is. The main one is just making sure that the inlet and outlet structures are clean. So removing any sediment or material like trash, leaves, whatever, that's keeping water from entering those. Items that might require more frequent maintenance or trimming, removing any noxious weeds, and mowing or thinning any vegetation that's in the stormwater treatment areas. Those tasks are important to keep things looking nice, as well as vegetation healthy.
Our crews will go out and they'll do the weeding, the mowing, make sure the irrigation system's working properly if it's a grassed facility, clean inlets, make sure grass isn't dying, make sure things aren't plugged with trash.
We've got a great bunch of maintenance people here to help clean these facilities, mow these facilities, and try to take care of them. I can't even give you a number of how many miles of green area that we are maintaining. And everybody takes such great pride in what they're doing, and they do such a great job. I'm proud to be in charge of these guys. They're great.
What I like about this job is I live here. You go around, you see a lot of clear spots. I did that and that makes me proud. This is my town. I want it to look good.
It's pretty cool to see the impact that you're making on the town, to be able to see your work actually come into effect in your life.
I think it's really important for everybody to be involved in this. It is in everybody's best interest to maintain these facilities, whether it's a city or whether it's a private homeowner or a developer even. We put these things in place so that we can save both the aquifer and the river, and I think it's really important.
There's a lot of really good ideas coming from municipalities who are just figuring this out, a lot of hard work, knowing the amount of research that's going into this, knowing the amount of talking that's going into this. This is something that I'm confident we can learn more about and that we can figure out a good solution or many good solutions to provide operation and maintenance for our stormwater treatment areas. We got this.
And with that, that is our presentation.
Thank you, Trey and Taylor. That was fantastic. I see a lot of kudos for those educational outreach videos that Trey showed. We have time for a couple of questions, and I'd like to start with a couple of questions related to those videos. Trey, if you could answer, are they available on your website, those 2 videos? And how are you using the videos? How are you sharing them to reach your target audience?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. SpokaneStormwater.org will lead you to our website, and our videos are on our website. And the videos have been a social media presence because we have another campaign going on called WaterWise, and it's a water conservation campaign, but it has a stormwater component. And so the videos are hitting social media through that campaign. There are little different versions, like truncated versions of the video, social media attention span size. But yes, it is on our website, and they're hitting social media. I also, when I get able to get back on the road, meaning get back into the neighborhoods, I will make these videos aware when I visit neighborhood councils. I give them brochures and we talk about illicit discharge, and then I'll either show them small clips or make them aware that they're there. Unfortunately, COVID has kind of put the kibosh on that. And I've made it to a couple virtual neighborhood council meetings. They're just not the same. You don't get the same impact or the same attention. So that's how we're trying to get them out there. Any suggestions are welcome if you have any ideas on how we can get these out there with a larger audience.
Okay, fantastic. There's another question here. Why does Spokane not want to create a stormwater department or storm department?
So it's a fair question, but I don't know that it's just the right premise. I wouldn't say that Spokane doesn't want to separate them all. I believe it comes down to a matter of practicality. We have a lot of different geologies here, and I'm speaking a little bit outside of my expertise and my history. I haven't been here for the entirety of this, but we have a lot of bedrock and basalt outcrops that I think hinder the way that we manage some stormwater. The city did spend $330 million on CSO tanks, so the city did commit on managing overflows into the river, combined sewer overflows through a tank system, and all that water goes to our POTW. So I can't say that the city didn't want to. I just think it was more a matter of a management decision. And I can't answer any better than that, and I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what do you feel contributed to Spokane's success in elevating the voice of O&M in your overall program?
Have you met anyone that does maintenance? We have loud voices. No, the success has come from the willingness for our people who do the planning to listen to the other stakeholders in the city. And maintenance folks, we get dirty for a living. And so we do know how to make our opinions known when we want them to be known, stereotyping and being overgeneral. But our other departments are willing to listen, and we have a lot of discussions and meetings where we have stakeholders, meaning departments, interdepartmental meetings. And there's been a lot of effort down in City Hall to de-silo all these departments, to bring everything together. And so when our integrated capital management group came into being, the word integrated was the whole focus. And so there's stakeholder meetings. I keep saying that. It's the interdepartmental meetings where voices are heard. And if you don't speak your voice in that meeting, shame on you. Then you don't really want to be heard. But that's been open discussions, and vehicles for that have been the success.
All right. There's one last question. Did your videos satisfy your public education and outreach requirements for the permit?
In part, yes. And we just submitted our report, so we'll find out in whole if we get comments back. But given the circumstance, I believe that we're in good shape as far as compliance. They do satisfy part of our compliance. We weren't able to get out into the public, so this actually fit. It was very timely given COVID that we could reach an audience at all. So yeah, I believe this does meet our requirement. It's not whole in part. It's in part. It's not in whole. But given the circumstance, I think it's appropriate.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Trey and Taylor, for addressing this topic. If anybody in the audience has additional questions, please contact Trey and Taylor. Their contact information can be found in the program. And I will wrap us up then. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Karen, thanks everybody.